But let's take a look at some of the key parts of what Prime Minister Modi had to say.
आज रात 12 बजे से संपूर्ण देश में संपूर्ण लॉकडाउन होने जा रहा है। हिंदुस्तान को बचाने के लिए, हिंदुस्तान के हर नागरिक को बचाने के लिए, आपको बचाने के लिए, आपके परिवार को बचाने के लिए आज रात 12 बजे से घरों से बाहर निकलने पर पूरी तरह पाबंदी लगाई जा रही है। देश के हर राज्य को, हर केंद्र शासित प्रदेश को, हर जिले, हर गांव, हर कस्बे, हर गली मोहल्ले को अब लॉकडाउन किया जा रहा है। ये एक तरह से कर्फ्यू ही है। जनता कर्फ्यू से भी कुछ कदम आगे की बात। जनता कर्फ्यू से जरा ज्यादा सख्त। कोरोना महामारी के खिलाफ निर्णायक लड़ाई के लिए ये कदम अब बहुत आवश्यक है। निश्चित तौर पर इन लॉकडाउन की एक आर्थिक कीमत देश को उठानी पड़ेगी, लेकिन एक एक भारतीय के जीवन को बचाना, आपके जीवन को बचाना, आपके परिवार को बचाना, इस समय मेरी, भारत सरकार की, देश की हर राज्य सरकार की, हर स्थानीय निकाय की सबसे बड़ी प्राथमिकता है। और इसलिए मेरी आपसे प्रार्थना है और मैं हाथ जोड़ के प्रार्थना करता हूं कि आप इस समय देश में जहां भी हैं वहीं रहे। अभी के हालात को देखते हुए देश में ये लॉकडाउन 21 दिन का होगा, 3 सप्ताह का होगा। और जब मैंने पिछली बार आपसे बात की थी तब मैंने आपसे कहा था कि मैं आपसे कुछ सप्ताह मांगने के लिए आया हूं। आने वाले 21 दिन हर नागरिक के लिए, हर परिवार के लिए बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण है। हेल्थ एक्सपर्ट्स की माने तो कोरोना वायरस की संक्रमण साइकिल तोड़ने के लिए कम से कम 21 दिन का समय बहुत अहम है। अगर ये 21 दिन नहीं संभले तो देश और आपका परिवार 21 साल पीछे चला जाएगा। अगर ये 21 दिन नहीं संभले तो कई परिवार हमेशा हमेशा के लिए तबाह हो जाएंगे। और मैं ये बात एक प्रधानमंत्री के तौर पर नहीं, आपके परिवार के सदस्य के नाते कह रहा हूं। इसलिए बाहर निकलना क्या होता है ये इन 21 दिनों के लिए भूल जाइए। घर में रहे और एक ही काम करे कि अपने घर में ही रहे। साथियों, आज के फैसले ने, देशव्यापी लॉकडाउन ने आपके घर के दरवाजे पर एक लक्ष्मण रेखा खींच दी है। आपको ये याद रखना है कि घर से बाहर पड़ने वाला आपका सिर्फ एक कदम कोरोना जैसी गंभीर महामारी को आपके घर में ले आ सकता है। अब कोरोना के मरीजों के इलाज के लिए देश के हेल्थ इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर को और मजबूत बनाने के लिए केंद्र सरकार ने आज 15,000 करोड़ रुपए का प्रावधान किया है। इससे कोरोना से जुड़ी टेस्टिंग फैसिलिटीज, पर्सनल प्रोटेक्टिव इक्विपमेंट्स, आइसोलेशन बेड्स, आईसीयू बेड्स, वेंटिलेटर्स और अन्य जरूरी साधनों की संख्या तेजी से बढ़ाई जाएगी। साथ ही मेडिकल और पैरामेडिकल मैन पावर की ट्रेनिंग का काम भी किया जाएगा।
There's a reason why the Prime Minister went into such great detail on the need for this lockdown. Let's explain why a lockdown works in the context of this virus. Let's bring up these graphics, take a look at the situation in China. Now, the date of the first death in China was on the 11th of January. Within approximately a week, right, about 2 weeks or so, on the 23rd of January is when the lockdown started. In that time period, the number of deaths was just 17, but the number of cases was 574. So what did the Chinese then do? They went and they did a lockdown in Wuhan, in the Hubei province, and later the Hubei province. And how many people did they lock down? 9 million people. And despite doing that, they ended up losing thousands of lives. Now let's look at the United States. Let's look at the United States. The date of the first death, 25th of February. When did they do their lockdown? 1 month later, almost 1 month later. Again, the death at the time of lockdown, relatively similar, a small number. But look at the number of cases at that lockdown time, because they delayed this by 1 month, 33,300. Now, the extent of the lockdown in America is partial. The people involved in this lockdown would be 75 million. But that number is critical. The cases at the time of lockdown is 33,300 because they delayed that lockdown process by almost 1 month. What are we doing over here in India? Why do we believe this may work? The date of the first death was the 12th of March. The date of the lockdown, again, just about 2 weeks, 23rd of March. At the time of the lockdown, 9 people had died. Total number of cases at the time of the lockdown, 433. But what have we done in India now? Read that last line, the second last line. It's an all India, a curfew now across the country. It's an all India lockdown. It's not 750 million anymore. Based on what the Prime Minister said a little while back, it is 1.3 billion Indians. All of us are in a state of a lockdown. That is what India is doing. We're not making small moves. We've gone the whole hog. The hope is that is what is going to save lives. Remember, China didn't have a full lockdown. The United States started their lockdown process, which is partial, much later on, by when the number of cases went up. So we have acted and thrown in pretty much everything that we could have. Joining us now to look at this, Dr. Naresh Trehan, Chairman and Managing Director of Medanta, the Medicity. We're joined by Shamika Ravi, Director of Research at Brookings India and a former member of the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council. VK Paul, member of the Niti Aayog, looking after health. And Vivek Reddy of the BJP. Let me go across to you, Dr. Trehan, first. Do you believe this move announced by the Prime Minister, 21 days, is going to save lives? Is this the move that is required to save countless lives?
Most definitely, I believe that. Because right now, the basis of this is scientific. It's not an emotional appeal. It is based on very solid scientific facts. So how does the peaking occur? So when you have already shown on your data charts that it starts slow and then explodes, the basic is that from person to person, it spreads rapidly because each person will infect 4 and those 4 will go in. So it's a geometrical expansion. So that is why we need to break that chain, that whoever has it today does not give it to the other person. Even if they do it within the family where we can control it. Treatment can be started in time and lives can be saved. But if you don't know the spread in the general public, you'll never be able to track it. It's just keep spreading, and the peaking will continue. And we, because of the country, like the Prime Minister also said, countries which have far more resources than we do, have been shaken by this malady. We, as a country where we have a very large population and limited resources, this is the hope. This is the hope that if we can all actually practice what has been communicated to us 100%, you will see that this chain will break.
Okay, this chain will break,
Two
and
things
as
are
you say
happening
that, Dr. Trehan,
simultaneously. One,
we've got details right now which have come in of the National Disaster Management Authority Act having been invoked in the country. And another point, and I'm going to read this out, it's just come in now, is a question which a lot of people were asking. The Prime Minister didn't directly refer to it. How do you get your food? How do you get your essential supplies? So I'm going to go through a couple of those points over there. This is the order. It spells out what the government can do: sanitation, healthcare, this, that and the other. Commercial and private establishments shall be closed, but exceptions, all right? Shops, including ration shops under PDS, dealing with food, groceries, fruits and vegetables, dairy and milk booths, meat and fish, animal fodder. However, district authorities may encourage and facilitate home delivery to minimize the movement of individuals outside their homes. Number 2, banks, insurance offices and ATMs. Number 3, the print and electronic media. Number 4, telecommunications, internet services, broadcasting and cable services, IT and IT enabled services, only for essential services, right? So essential service providers, as far as possible for them to work over there. Delivery of all essential goods, including food, pharmaceuticals, medical equipment through e-commerce. Petrol pumps, LPG, petroleum, gas and retail continues. Power generation continues. Capital and debt market services as notified by SEBI continue. Cold storage and warehousing services continue, and private security services continue. All other establishments may work from home only. Mr. V.K. Paul, Member Niti Aayog Health, it's important to tell people, sir, that what I have read out doesn't make it sound as if it's all back to normal. It's not. We need to survive. You need medicines and food. But what I have just mentioned is not something which makes it much easier. What the Prime Minister said, the Lakshman Rekha is at your doorstep, at your home, that remains. Can you reiterate that point, sir?
Absolutely. Today our battle against COVID has reached the top gear, and this action was very, very mandated, was necessary, and this was an opportunity which we could not have afforded to miss. This would, if we hadn't done this, we could have incurred unimaginable loss to our nation. What you have read out just now is the order which makes exceptions to the lockdown for very critical services. These are our lifelines, and these must remain moving. These must remain efficient, and this is essential. So it is a right balance. It is in no way of dilution of lockdown, but this is to ensure that all of us have our lifelines in terms of supplies and in terms of the bare necessities, the petrol and electricity and cash and so on. This is a very, very calibrated, nuanced order that you have read out, and this is something that will sustain us through these 21 days of an extraordinary sacrifice and solidarity.
Okay, Dr. Sudhir Bhandari, Principal at the Sawai Mansingh Hospital in Jaipur, and a very senior physician joins us as well. Dr. Bhandari, this is the other point that the Prime Minister was trying to talk about, that this is incredibly contagious. This is what makes coronavirus, COVID-19, deadlier potentially than other ailments of its type. As somebody who's been treating these patients who come in with COVID-19, can you explain to us how and why it's more infectious?
It is one of the most infectious and contagious virus infection. It spreads so fast. One suspected patient or the one confirmed patient may infect not less than 8 to 10 people, and the chain goes on. Secondly, initially the patient is asymptomatic and he could carry the virus to be spread without knowing himself, and it spreads like a fire. Honorable Prime Minister, what he said, that lockdown is the only answer, this justifies because the virus spreads so fast, it damages the lung so fast, and because of the community spread, if it starts, even the best of medical facilities will fall short, as it happened in the rest of the world. Now, being highly contagious virus, it can find its way in the air, it can stabilize on the hard surfaces in the form of droplets.
Right.
It may find its entry into the mucosa of the sinuses, and being highly contagious, it is so important. I was listening the hardships the 21-day lockout going to cause, but let me request all my fellow countrymen, if you look at the benefit of containing interpersonal in the community space, I would say these hardships are just nothing.
All right,
As a
these
doctor,
hardships
I
are
can
absolutely
visualize
important, critical at this stage.
damage.
I take your point, Dr. Bhandari, just trying to rotate the strike, go across to all our panelists this evening. But first, I need to go across to NDTV's Sunil Prabhu. Sunil, the National Disaster Act has been invoked, is that correct? What does that mean? And what are some of the key points of the order? I mean, I've read out the bit, Sunil, about how essential supplies you can get, but what are some of the other key points of this?
Well, Vishnu, let me first add, as I told Srinivasan a short while after the Prime Minister address, for people who are viewing this today, they need to be absolutely calm, not to panic. The government of India, basically those provisions that had been made earlier in terms of curfew, which was in place during the Janata curfew, still continues. That means you have basically essential services, your milk supplies, your vegetables, the water supply, the sanitation workers, your health authorities, all those will continue to function apart from us, the print and electronic media. So let's reassure the entire people, our viewers who are watching us, that even though the National Disaster Management Act has been invoked, this is a stringent provision which was way back in 2005 and it's ironical that Prime Minister Narendra Modi uses this act. This is something that Mr. Shivraj Patil and Sonia Gandhi were actually responsible for it, and they've invoked that very same power now to give the state complete power, the center complete power to override the states on these important aspects of natural disaster. Now that they have decided that COVID is a national disaster, this will ensure that with the invocation of this, that the center has an overriding power. As I speak to you, Vishnu, the Principal Secretary to the Prime Minister, the Cabinet Secretary to is heading that crisis management group, telling all Chief Secretaries of State that they must comply with the Centre and the NDMA's orders. This has overriding power now. It's not an emergency. Let me clarify to all our viewers, this is not an emergency. This is invoking the National Disaster Management Act to ensure that states will adhere to this disaster plan that is going to be put out by the National Disaster Management Act. I suppose the Cabinet Secretary has started this meeting at 9 o'clock, will continue to do so, and will continue to have these meetings on an hour-to-hour basis, if not every 12 hours, with the states, along with the other members of the crisis members group. Apart from there's another executive committee which is held by the Home Secretary, which will also look at various other...
So this entire process well underway. Sunil, the points you mentioned, absolutely critical. Shamika Ravi, let me get a quick reaction from you on what the Prime Minister also mentioned about a 15,000 crore rupee scheme, which is going to try and deal with economic hardships partially, but also be used to shore up our medical defenses, as it were. So, Shamika Ravi, do you believe that a lot more needs to be said or announced as far as that is concerned, because there needs to be clarity on finances. For example, the poor in this country, laborers in this country, migrants in this country. Would you expect something very substantive in the days ahead, if not the hours ahead?
I do expect them in the hours ahead, Vishnu, because I think the health measures and the financial measures have to be simultaneous. I think the entire nation is with the PM. I think he spoke as an elder in the family. There is an incredible connect he has with the population. People will abide. But we also have to understand there is a very large fraction out there who are not plugged into any kind of formal support. And it'll be very difficult for small firms, micro firms to even keep people on employment with this kind of a lockdown, which means the economy has fundamentally come to a grinding halt. And the government has to do its bit to fill people's pockets right now. We definitely don't want people to die of COVID, but we also most definitely don't want people to die of starvation.
Okay. Dr. Trehan, a point over here that's important: as people step out to get their supplies, vegetables, fruits, milk, is that not an area when there is an element of danger? The reason I ask is it perhaps important that these shops which provide basic supplies remain open through the day to avoid queues building up and to avoid a rush, because
Absolutely.
people are worried, and that's natural perhaps?
No, one of the plans that has been made is to encourage home delivery.
Yes.
So that people don't have to leave their home. Now, this is to be operationalized by tomorrow morning. Now, what preparedness, because the local administrations had already been warned about the fact that if this, like the Sunday experience, that if this experience would come up again, how would we keep the vital supplies going? So these kind of things have already been worked out, and like Dr. Paul just said, that yes, care has been taken that the lifelines are kept open, but also the administration has been told that people are not going to go out in groups or get crowded into shops, so that physical distancing, which is like social distancing or physical distancing, whatever you call it, has to be maintained. So avoid overcrowding, avoid going close to another person in the next at least 2 meters apart.
Okay.
So I think overall these measures will work. There may be 1 or 2 days of confusion and may be chaotic a little bit, but we have to bring out our resilience. If there was a physical war like has happened in the Second World War and all that, what would happen? People were locked up for months. So, this is one of those things that this is in our hands, comply and everything else will work out, because this is a dynamic situation. Meetings are being held regularly, like hour by hour, to see what are the measures to be put in place.
Okay, I just want to thank you all of you for being with us. Just be with me for a few more moments. I want to go back to Dr. Paul, but I want to just show this graphic first. Let's have this full screen if we can. Now, this number actually is going to be updated in a little while from now, but let's have it full screen, right? This shows the progression of the disease in states, and what you will see is that Kerala had the largest number, then Maharashtra comes up. There is a spurt in Kerala on the 13th and 14th, but then look from the 16th how Maharashtra shoots up, and it keeps shooting up until once again just on the 23rd is when there is that large number of cases reported in Kerala. And so Kerala, Maharashtra, Karnataka are the states which have had the largest number of cases. Initially, of course, it changed. It's very important that every single state continues to work towards social distancing, towards contact tracing, to try and ensure that this does not enter the population. Dr. Paul, this is the next point I wanted to actually ask you about. Contact tracing, what if somebody were to say that the reason we have gone into this lockdown is because contact tracing has not worked, and therefore we are already into the next stage when the government can't control this. Would that be a fair statement, or do you believe contact tracing is still a life and death situation?
I think at this point nuances about stage 2 or 3 are not relevant anymore. For practical purposes, we are in a phase where we feel community transmission hopefully has not happened. Even if it has happened, it is minimal, and even if it is more than that, we are ready, because we have taken a measure which will break the back of the virus transmission, and that's what it is all about. And at this point, it is very important that, as Dr. Trihan very correctly said, that even when you go out, please do not forget the basic principles of social distancing, which have been in the vogue and have been talked about for such a long period of time. And maintaining distance, not to crowd. We will bombard. I request all media channels to continue to emphasize this very fundamental issue. Also remember, our efforts through the integrated disease surveillance program have been doubled. We are present in every district, and one of the essential services, so to say, and is truly that our IDSP teams will continue to track the contacts and continue to go in every district to make sure that we know what the status of the disease is. And please remember, even that strategy has now been upgraded, so to say, and has been aligned with this stage of our response to this dreaded outbreak. So the other measures, contact tracing included, are and will continue to go forward. We'll continue to do what we need to do about protecting our health workers and doctors and nurses and paramedical staff. We continue to look after those who are in need of care, and I'm pleased to also tell you that the Honorable Prime Minister has encouraged in his discussion with the leaders of the medical profession to use telephones for consultation, and he patted and praised the nurses of our country. So there are other things which will go on, and the financial package that you refer to is an early injection of resources, but the resources will never be insufficient for this endeavor. We are going all the way. All
right. Sanjay Jha joins us from the Congress Party. Sanjay, your thoughts about what the Prime Minister said. This is a moment that we all come together as a nation. This is war, and therefore, what is your perspective on what Mr. Modi had to say?
Well, Vishnu, I don't think anybody is actually going to question the Prime Minister or the government when they recommend being circumspect or cautious, especially given the fact that India remains vulnerable and at a very high risk position on the curve at this point of time. So arguing about the lockdown, that's not really the main issue. I think if the government has data where they believe that we are highly susceptible, or they are also kind of concerned that there can be a lot of community infesting that can tomorrow perhaps get out of control, then being paranoid is being, frankly, very wise and prudent. The issue that, frankly, Vishnu, that bothers us considerably is the fact that the Prime Minister, at the end of a 30-minute long speech, did not really offer anything tangible to the people who are being devastated terribly even as we talk. And I repeat it again with all the gravitas that I can muster on behalf of my party, because there are millions and millions and millions of people, probably the majority.
Yes.
None of us on your show at the moment, including the distinguished doctors and the gentleman from Niti Aayog.
None of us should. We don't.
Absolutely.
Yes.
None of us here are the microcosm of the India that is getting absolutely, kind of ruined even as we talk. I'll give you a personal example. The security guard in my building or in my office has not been able to go home for the last 5 or 6 days. They were not prepared to, in fact, even change their clothes. We have arranged for their, food, etc. But the fact of the matter is that I'm sure that there are millions who don't even have that basic advantage that the others have at this point of time.
Okay.
So India's informal and unorganized sector is bleeding. And I think, when you saw the pictures, Vishnu, of the people in Chhatrapati Shivaji terminus trying to go back to Bihar or Uttar Pradesh or to different parts of their homes, and they were crowding the stations because they know they cannot survive in Mumbai on a day-to-day basis anymore. They can't get food. They can't travel. What do? You want them to starve?
No,
to
those are
some
of the most critical questions. And Shamika, that makes me come back to you for a moment. We keep debating about the economy in another time and space, so that's not the point over here. But at the end of the day, our economic fundamentals at one level are basically sound. We've got very strong foreign exchange reserves. We've got cash reserves. We've got money for devastating emergencies like this. The UP government started something interesting today by doing direct cash transfers to those who are most vulnerable. Is that the way forward, that there is a system of direct cash transfers to those who need this money to enable them to survive on a nationwide basis, no matter how much it costs, that at the end of the day, we can still take that hit because we need to survive?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think, eventually the economy also has to be thought from the perspective of people, citizens. And what is good for an average Indian today is good for the economy, Vishnu. And I think from that perspective, state governments have taken several initiatives towards cash transfers. I think it is important to give a little more calibrated and a unified view on these things, because clearly there is disparity across states.
All right, so a calibrated response, absolutely essential over there. Sanjay and Shamika, thanks very much for being with us. Dr. Paul, just be with us for a little bit more time, because I want to go through some of these points once again, because a lot of people, in fact, people have been messaging asking that same question, what happens, where do I get my food from? So again, I think I need to repeat that point. In as much as the points that I'm going to tell you now answer that question, the larger message of the Prime Minister should not be lost. This is not an ordinary situation. There is no need to panic. Essential commodities, medicines will be available. The centre and various state governments will work in close coordination to ensure this. But there needs to be a Lakshman Rekha at our doorsteps, outside our doors, our homes, whatever it is. You do not go out. 21-day lockdown in India, the second most populous country in the world. No rail services, no air services, only essential services. So you ask, what essential services? And let me answer that question while once again prefacing that with what the Prime Minister says, that you have to maintain social distancing. Your home is where you need to be. You are not going to be out for your daily morning walks. You're not going to be loitering around. You're not going to be out unless you are allowed to be out. And you are allowed to be out to shop at ration shops under PDS, shops dealing with food, groceries, fruits and vegetables, dairy and milk booths, meat and fish, animal fodder. However, district authorities may encourage and facilitate home delivery to minimize the movement of individuals outside their homes. Now, this is a critical point. In a country as large as ours, in urban India, how does one actually enable, how does that actually work out? It's a huge strain. Anyhow, banks, insurance offices, ATMs, those will work. Print and electronic media work. We'll be broadcasting for you. Telecommunications, internet services, broadcasting, cable services, IT and IT-enabled services only for essential services are permitted, and as far as possible to work from home. All right. Delivery of all essential goods, including food, pharma, medical equipment through e-commerce. Petrol pumps will work, LPG will work, power generation will work, gas retail, storage outlets remain, power generation remains, transmission, distribution, capital and debt market services, important, capital and debt market services as notified by SEBI continue, cold storage and warehousing continues, private security services continue. But again, this doesn't mean it's all normal. This means you stay at home, you only go to pick up your essential commodities or whatever you require, food, and the like, and then you come back home and you stay at home for 21 days. Remember, there is, even at midnight tonight, and think about it, a complete lockdown on air travel in this country. Already there are no international flights, now there will be no domestic flights. And this lockdown that we are talking about is for 21 days. It needs to be seen whether that flights and all that also is extended. It was for a period of 5 days. We don't know how long that's going to continue. How is it possible, Dr. Paul, for home delivery to take place at the scale at which the government would like? We don't have that infrastructure. Nobody does. So how will that work?
Vishnu, remember, remember, we are in extraordinary times, and the only major work that this nation is mounting today is response to COVID-19. Everything else is insignificant today.
Right.
So, the society at large, the district administration, and the willingness of the entire nation and state and union government to go all the way. We are a caring nation. This will happen. This is the only thing that we are doing in the next few days, maintaining the lifelines of the nation to the people in their home sitting. Our own innovation, our own ability to find solutions at the local, leave it to people. We will promote those positive ideas that people will now come forth from this midnight. This country will mount this response responsibly, innovatively, and will ensure that these lifelines function. I think now let the people and the administration at the grassroots level show their ingenuity and their full commitment to the people of India. Please remember, these are extraordinary times. This opportunity of 3 weeks will never come back, and therefore we must unite to find solutions. Smart ideas will come out. This nation will serve the country. This government will, and the state governments will serve its people and ensure that those essential services that you have listed will function, and people will get their goods to the best of the extent possible.
No, absolutely, Mr. Paul. It's a battle for us. It's a battle for our survival, for our identity in the face of this unbelievable disease. It's unbelievable that this is all happening in the way it is. But we have to fight. This is India fighting for ourselves, for our citizens, for our families, for what we hold most dear, and we have to make this work. No options. It's always good to talk to you, sir.
This
Thanks
may
very
be
much.
our biggest collective endeavor in the history of independent India.
I have no doubt, sir. This is bigger than our wars.
Yes. Anything we have seen in the past.
Possibly natural disasters. We've had so many in our country, but the scale at which things can go wrong, and the Prime Minister said this, is why we need to deal with this, and we need to listen to what people are saying. Thanks, Dr. Paul, very much for being with us. Superb to talk to you as always.